good evening and welcome to the Super License F1 podcast. My name is Rodney.
And my name is Zach.
Zach, we're back again with another Netflix Drive to Survive commentary. We're going to have a few updates on the calendar. I've got a nice juicy little super quiz to drop on you after that. But first of all, give us the patented Super License Zach update. How are you going?
Oh, the patented Zach update. It's fine. It's fine. It's nice that the weather's all really lovely. It seems like just everybody's reactions on the street is like, oh, lockdown's done. Everything's good. Everything's fine. Everybody get back to work. And that has me a little bit fearful, but I'm glad that people, just for their mental health, have been able to get out and go to the park and socially distance, see a friend, or, at least the people who live close to each other, that kind of stuff. So, I'm feeling better about that, but I am getting those first niggles of I've probably had a little bit of enough of this. Working remotely all the time is difficult, and the day's getting longer, which is nice, but I'm getting a little bit of cabin fever and just that general underlying frustration that you can't quite pin down and oh yeah, pandemic. That's probably what this is about. Yeah, the underlying stress of a pandemic. Yeah. So no, things are good. And it was nice having the the Bundesliga was back, the German football league was back on the weekend, and I have a couple of friends who live in Germany, and I don't mind football at all, so I watched a bit of that, and that gave me a small sense of hey, look, this collective sport thing, we could all watch it together, even though there are no fans there, this is something. And it's nice because everybody's looking at the Bundesliga now being is this how we could bring sport back? Is that working? The Premier League tested I think they've tested every team and team member in the Premier League in the UK now, as of just right now. So they found a few, a handful of positive cases, but those people will be quarantined. That's staff and players. But I reckon the Premier League will be back in the end of June, early July. I know AFL in Australia is coming back. I know that they're looking at cricket with New Zealand creating a bubble between Australia and New Zealand, the Trans-Tasman cricket bubble. I'd watch that series, so finally, whether you morally or ethically or even scientifically believe that sport should be coming back, it seems like there is a path forward for Formula One to come back, which is really good news.
Yeah, we're getting towards that. Obviously, we're sort of eagerly awaiting these first dates in Austria, which is, on the calendar. The proposed new calendar version 2.0 is going to be the proposed return date for Formula One. Obviously, Austria was shaping up early as one of the contenders because it's so close to an airport. You could just get people in and out nice and easily. They are, we said this on an earlier episode, proposing that they'll test everybody every 2 days. They've even been asked questions like, well, what could threaten a race? Would it be one person getting tested positive? Would it be 10 people testing positive? And they were like, no, that's all fine. If that happens, we'll just usher those people away and isolate them as quickly as possible. No problem. I guess it depends on which 10 people, but yeah, if it's one of the drivers, you might be a bit more worried. But things are shaping up pretty good for a start in Austria. And again, that's still 40-something days away, so there's no rush.
Oh, but don't say it like that.
I know. I should say it's only just over a month away. But we are faced with the prospect of, having to postpone or cancel the races in Silverstone because of the UK government's travel restrictions, forced quarantining for new people coming into the country. Bit of a problem when you want all the teams to come there and race, and a bit of a problem even with the teams being based there, which also, I don't know how they're going to get around that, but they've been asked for exemption. They've been told, no, sorry very much, cannot do. So, yeah, you may not get races in your neck of the world anytime soon, Zach.
Yeah, that is, the quarantine thing it does smack people as really odd. Because it's the rest of the world, not the rest of the world, but a lot of Europe,
you didn't have it
Germany
before,
especially. Yes, the rest of it's making sport. There was on some other podcasts I listened to. It almost all of the restrictions around the Bundesliga this weekend almost looked a bit outdated. They looked a little bit like, why are you socially distancing everybody on the bench if they're out there playing with each other? Why can't they hug if they've all been tested and they're all fine? Yeah. When there's a goal scored, not just hug generally on the pitch for fun. I mean, they could do that. There's no trouble with that either. But it kind of looked archaic in this new world of if we're starting to come back, people are actually mixing in ways that looks a little outdated. So here in the UK is going to oh no, we couldn't have Formula One or people coming to the country because we'll have to quarantine them. Because we're introducing that measure. It was what were you doing beforehand? You weren't. Oh, that's right. You weren't contact tracing, quarantining people.
Yeah,
you hadn't shut the borders down to major countries that had major infections. Yeah, that's right. Totally mishandled the situation. But it's troubling in new time, and we're not allowed to politicize or blame anyone, Rod. So stop trying to paint me into a corner. Stop trying to bloody last week tonight me, okay?
We're missing an opportunity, though, I think, to actually rebrand Formula One as the leading example of how to deal with this crisis. Number one, you're not allowed to touch your face. They all wear helmets. It's not a problem. Number two, instead of spraying each other down with champagne, just spray each other down with sanitizer, bro. There's not a problem. This is all fine. We're just missing a huge opportunity here to be ambassadors to the world, Zach.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all the players are socially distanced. The cars are wider than the social distancing allows for.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
They don't want to touch they never want to touch each other.
There was a weird bar or something in Germany where they were forcing everyone in the bar to wear a helmet, and on top of the helmet they had mounted some pool noodles that were 1.5 meters long to make sure that no one got too close to each other. It's just ridiculous lengths that we're going to, when we already have cars that are ridiculous lengths. So it's like a hand in a glove.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as what you mentioned earlier, it's the contingency planning is what needs to happen, because there's every chance a driver, it's when people go home, when Daniel Ricciardo goes back to his house in Monaco, he might see some friends or family who might be asymptomatic and might be carriers, and he might bring it back, but he's going to be tested every 2 days like the rest of everybody else. So there's every chance a driver will get it and won't be able to race one race. And if we're doing double headers and stuff like that, they might risk 2 races, over a 7-day period, depending on how long they have to quarantine for. But this is how the sport goes. Like unless you bring it back in stages like this, like no fans, full quarantining everybody, then it's not going to come back in full force. Nothing will. Nothing at least in Europe, is going to come back from, like, it's not a switch. It's not just going to be like, well, you couldn't go to a restaurant, now you can. It's going to be like, no, just stages as we work through it. And I think we should welcome that, make it as safe as possible. But it's never going to be fully safe as much as coming back. So it just has to be in stages. And I welcome it doesn't feel like Formula One is rushing it. Other sports maybe have, or other businesses or whatever. But I think Formula One's taking the right tact.
Yeah, they're bringing in this new biodome idea, and they're gonna consult with Paulie Shore about that, and I think that's a good move. So yeah, we keep having this revised calendar, and we sort of pencil in races, but you can't really do any more than pencil it in. You have to kind of rub it out later. We read this book to my daughter called "Who's That Knocking?" and the idea is that there's this family in a house, and people keep coming and knocking on the door, and it's like you see the silhouette in the window, and it looks like a crocodile, but then you open the door, and it's just someone carrying a bunch of saws, or you think it's an octopus, and you open it, it's just someone carrying a hose. And then eventually at the end, you see the silhouette of a rhinoceros, and then they open the door and they go, it is a rhinoceros. And the rhinoceros comes in and he goes, let's party. I'm just waiting for the rhinoceros, the let's party moment for F1, which hopefully this is Austria. Hopefully they can stick to that commitment. Zach, we haven't even talked yet about the official driver movements of Mr. Carlos Sainz and Mr. Daniel Ricciardo. We were pretty much on the money last week when we said they're probably going to Ferrari and McLaren respectively, and they have done so respectively. But also respectively, the question remains of who, respectively, is going to be respectfully signing to Renault.
Who is going to sign to Renault, Rod? I mean, it's the thing you brought up last episode. That was that's the main concern. I mean, I think it's definitely going to be Fernando Alonso. His media team has gone into full swing.
See, Jenson Button is one of the ones who's getting voicey. I reckon that's a cover for him coming back.
Oh yeah, I think that every driver that has left Formula One in the last 5 years, 8 years is
coming back for sure. Yeah,
I can, especially because it's going to be an odd season, right? Because next year will be the season before, like if we're talking about seats for 2021, that will be this weird season before the new regulations come in. So there might be a lot of drivers who are like, no, put me in the car for that year and take your time to see how the rest of the driver market settles down and see you through this last bit. I'll get you all this great feedback, all this kind of stuff, bump your brand up a little bit, and then you can replace me. Just give me that 1 year contract.
With that exactly in mind, let me throw a name and you tell me how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how stupid it is. Robert Kubica. Why not put Robert Kubica in that seat?
That is not insane.
It's
on a scale
stupid.
of 1 to 10.
It's not as stupid as some of the other things.
No, I would take Robert Kubica before I took Fernando Alonso. I mean, that might sound insane.
He has history with Renault.
Yep.
No, those are the two reasons.
Okay, yeah, that's it. I mean,
that's it. That's basically it.
Fernando would be too dangerous because you bring him back in, and poor Esteban Ocon's just going to be like, oh my god,
he doesn't want to drive.
This team was meant to be a bit about me,
no,
and then Fernando's just going to own the whole thing. No. I mean, it's probably going to be the fact that Renault they're not the richest team going around right now. I mean, Cyril Abiteboul's been saying why aren't there driver salary caps in Formula One to bring costs down, all that kind of stuff. I think that he'll be looking for someone who can just be stable. And I mean, should they just get Nico Hülkenberg back? That's probably the most straightforward answer, right?
Yeah. I mean, he'll be happy to come back, I'm sure. He was already happy when he was driving there, so it's not at all a backward step for him. It's a forward step, given that he might even then eventually have a chance of getting a podium. Not much of a chance, but something of a chance. Look, yeah, I'm sure that.
Who would you put in? Who's your choice? Let's get full punditry, full conjecture. Rod, you're in charge. You're the Cyril Abiteboul in this circumstance. Who are you putting in the seat?
I mean, if Kimi Räikkönen came knocking on my door and said, yeah, I don't know that I want to, continue at Alpha and I wouldn't mind driving for you. What do you think? It'd be hard for me to say no to him, but I think Hülkenberg is a better chance than him. Definitely, I would rule out Fernando Alonso. That's not happening. Sebastian Vettel, I just don't think his pride will let him go there. So, yeah, I mean, the Hulk is number one, eh?
Yeah, the Hulk. Do we think we'll see driver swaps this season? As in, do you think that the teams will say, okay, why don't we we've hired that driver, could we just put them in the car?
I think as long as there's going to be a full-ish season, we know what the whole qualifications on that are. As long as there's something like a full season, I think we'll see the drivers just continue as expected. If we get down to for some reason there's only 4 races, but we're still going to do them, we'll probably see a whole bunch of craziness, like Hamilton just not showing up, and then who knows who's going to drive. But then, in that scenario, we may see some crazy driver swaps. But I think as long as we have a quote-unquote normal season, we won't see that. But look, we should probably maybe touch on and react to the official news, Carlos Sainz going to Ferrari. Any thoughts or feelings about that? A big turnaround from a guy who Renault said was not good enough, turned around McLaren. And then, I mean, when he went to McLaren, he was like, look, hey, you're never disappointed to go to a team like McLaren with their history and everything. But I was like, but they're last, right? They're last. They were last. And then in his 1 year there, they've gone from last to very, very good. So his fortune's turned around there, but now he's really hit the big time wearing red overalls.
Yeah, I couldn't be happier for him. I really like Carlos Sainz, and I live in fear that a bad story is going to come out about him, that he's, that he...
You won't be allowed to like him anymore.
Yeah, he keeps tigers in cages at his house or something like that, something that I'm like, oh no, don't, no. I'm just really happy for him, and I think that's the right move for Ferrari. They couldn't get Lewis Hamilton. They didn't want maybe someone like that either because Charles Leclerc is their guy, and I think that they're going to be like, you know what? Let's just get the 2 best drivers available on the grid right now, stick in the car, and let's just try and win as many races as we can. I think he's very happy with it. I think he could have a really long career at Ferrari, and we might actually get a stable Ferrari for a while, which would be, I'm sure they would love that, maybe stable in management and driver lineup, and not having to be thinking about Monza coming around every year and being like, we're going to fire one of our drivers, we're going to sign a new one, what are we going to do?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, this is one of those years where, we are, I don't know if we're going to race at Monza or not, but, Sebastian Vettel will be thinking, phew, if I can make it past Monza without getting fired, I'll be okay. And then it's like, oh, we may not even go there. He'll be like, damn it, that was my one chance. And then obviously we talked about Ricciardo very likely to go to McLaren. That was confirmed. Probably a good step. Probably he'll make the kind of progress there that he thought he was going to make last year when he went to Renault. But, it's certainly not, it's not going to put him in winning contention, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not such a bad move, and it keeps his hand in. He's still got a bit of a chance, even if he's sort of lobbing them in from half court, and he's certainly not shooting free throws from there, but he's got a chance. Yeah,
I would prefer any step towards Mercedes at this point, with Mercedes supplying the power units to McLaren in 2021, I think is a good thing. If you could be around the Mercedes group for if and when Lewis Hamilton is like, I want to take a year off, or maybe I don't want to drive anymore. And they're like, shit, we need a responsible, good driver, just to slot straight into that seat, even if they're still in Formula One, which they always talk about whether they get out or not because of their environmental conflict that they supposedly have with their own brand. Then, I could see Daniel being like, this is the right track to be on. Be close to that Mercedes power unit. that's a positive move. And if McLaren's always spoken about that their car minus the power unit is really strong. Like if you can turn the engine up to full and get the track clear, McLaren look really, really, really good. So hopefully that all the good work that Carlos Sainz did last season and whatever he does this season will pave the way for Daniel and Lando Norris as well to have a really good 2021.
Yeah, I think it's a really good place for him to be going at a time when he needs to mentally regroup and reset as well. So yeah, well, that's more or less all of the big news covered. Maybe we should get into this week's commentary, the Dare to Swear commentary for Drive to Survive. I'm going to open up my Netflix, and if you're at home or you have the ability to do so, definitely recommend that you do that. Pop your headphones in, open your iPad or your Apple TV or whatever, and hit play with us whenever Zach says go.
Yeah, it's season 2, episode 6, The Raging Bulls. We're going to in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And then off we go. Rough and racing.
I wonder what this will be about. Raging Bulls.
So we had a tease of this last time. This could be anybody at all about to sit down.
Pretty sure that French accent. Pierre Gasly. So Pierre Gasly, and he's like, "Are you going to just ask me about my seat at Red Bull and what's happening?" And they're like, "Definitely."
He'd be like, "I'll answer any question except for the change of seat," and they'd be like, "No dice," and he'd be like, "Okay, I guess that's fine." What right?
Also, we want to know a little bit more. We want to know a little bit more about the bead bracelets you're wearing on your right wrist. There, that is. Are you a surfer?
Tell us about the name Pierre. No, of course we want to know about you getting dumped back to the minor leagues by Red Bull.
Yeah, back to the B team. I mean, this is the sad thing, like, hearing from, like, Christian Horner just consistently just being like, we sucked with him in the team. It's like, man, you know he's still one of your drivers, right? Like, he's still in the stable. And I do remember the first time I watched this, like, genuinely feeling like Pierre was so frustrated at himself. Like, that shot before of him sitting in the car after he'd crashed and, like, smashing his own head, just going, fuck! Like, he's just so caught in two minds about how to drive. Like, and we saw that last episode as well, that he's just like, he's bereft. And it just feels like it's been so long since I've seen a professional sports person, especially a young one, like, just lack any confidence.
Before we get too deep into the Albon story, because I think that's really interesting, Red Bull really made their own bed by dropping Kvyat a few years ago, because they really said, if you come to Red Bull and you don't perform, doesn't matter if it's the middle of the year, doesn't matter if it's 4 races into the year, we will drop you down. And that, I mean, that just meant that they had no option but to drop Pierre Gasly down when he wasn't performing. But also, with coming into that team with that spectre hanging over him, just doubled the pressure when it didn't need to be. So they've, you live by the sword, you also die by that same sword. I think that's the saying.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's exactly true. I mean, it's a real problem for Red Bull. I mean, I wonder if they're kicking themselves now that Carlos Sainz Jr. slipped through their fingers. You know, they traded him off to Renault for a little bit. So. He was still a contracted Red Bull driver, and now then he had a great season in McLaren and was edging up on Red Bull, and now he's leapfrogged them, and they never got a taste of any of that success. A 24-year-old driver who Ferrari wanted, like, Red Bull must just be like, damn it, we can't even find a second driver for our main team, let alone a couple of backups for our B team. But lo and behold, Alexander Albon just wanders onto the scene out of nowhere and is, as this episode will show, totally capable. More than capable.
Like, literally really out of nowhere. Like, he was signed for, I think, Formula E the year before he signed into Formula 1. They just plucked him out of obscurity, put him into Toro Rosso, and then next thing you know is he's next to Max Verstappen in the garage. But, I mean, I wonder whether we're seeing all these scenes right now of, like, him praying with monks and just how spiritual his family is and stuff. I wonder if that is sort of, what would you call it? Like a suit of armor that he can put on when he needs to reflect some of the pressure away.
Yeah, he just seems so grounded and so centered and so grateful that he has this opportunity. Like, I love these shots of their whole family in this family home. Like, just everybody. It looks like this
there's about 13 of them and they all live
Home
together.
Alone scenes where the whole family's in the house. Like, everybody's wandering around the stairs and trying to find their space. I mean, the house is not as massive as that insane house in Home Alone, which I never got when I was a kid, that I was like, oh, it's just a big home. Then when you watch that movie as an adult, you're like, that is a mansion.
Yeah.
Like, it's just room after room after room.
Unrealistic that they live in a house that big.
I know. We're seeing shots now of like, and Albon's talking about, he's raced with Pierre Gasly, Max Verstappen, Esteban Ocon, Charles Leclerc. Like, I mean, I love that I can recognize all these drivers as kids because they still look
They're
like
still
this,
kids, yeah, exactly.
Like 4 years ago. But, you can see why. As George Russell said this week, he's like, I'm annoyed that all of my friends are all getting drives at top teams and I'm at Williams.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, he's kind of in that group where he's not, like, he took the leap to Formula One really early, but he just took the first opportunity at the worst team. Is that Nico Hülkenberg on the podium? Oh, no, it's just some young random other Renault driver in Formula 2.
Just someone else.
Oh, what a shame. But yeah, Alexander Albon has none of the brash confidence that we were talking that you would need, but he levels that out with all of the just like, he just seems happy all the time. That's true.
We finished the season thinking that Albon had done pretty well, given his elevation. There's certainly critics of him, and they'll pull out obscure factoids and things that they're like, oh, but I think you'll find on lap 27 of the Brazil Grand Prix, he did, and it's like, he did so well. Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. He made it look easy compared to how Pierre Gasly was making it look. So, yeah. And he's just a super nice guy, the kind of guy that you just like to see doing well. So I just don't understand the ill will that people have seemingly towards him.
Yeah, what could anybody hold against Alexander Albon?
Like, what have you even got?
Famous last words,
like, how do you even have a foothold into anything negative about him? You don't even know who he is.
No. He's the kind of guy, he gives great interviews. Like, on this show, he's so honest on Drive to Survive. Like, I love this storyline that he's like, winning a couple of races in Formula 2, gets picked up by Toro Rosso. They're like, yes, right now, jump in the team. And then races a handful of times. And then they're like, so now you're in the third best team in Formula 1.
It does literally add some ethnic diversity, and it may not be immediately apparent, but when you dig below the surface to the most shallow degree, and it becomes obvious. But it's something that we need so much of in the sport as well. Like, he's not just from Europe. Thank goodness. Yeah, I mean, he sort of is, but also not really. So you know what I mean.
No, and he's not. Yeah, I'm sure he's been racing in Europe for a really long time since he's a young age and stuff. But his family is more diverse than a lot of the Formula One drivers. That and there is a real Eurocentric focus.
Yes.
In Formula One, and look, you get Australians and Brazilians, all that kind of stuff. But really, the path to Formula One, you have to come to Europe when you're like 12, and essentially become European to be a Formula One driver. And it seems like Alexander Albon has kept a really strong link to his cultural past and his setup. And his family's setup. So I love that about him. I think the sport really needs it, and it's definitely worth calling out, right? I think it was a good idea to call it out. And also, his mum's just super sweet that she just lives every second of every race. We're seeing footage of him, driving around Singapore, and her just... Is it Singapore? No, it's Abu Dhabi. But just like her just constantly in fear.
Just so wonderful to see that those tyres haven't been broken. The way that some of the other drivers are like, yeah, whatever. Whether my family there or not doesn't matter. I'd actually rather they weren't there. Albon's like, you just can't even imagine what it would be like without, having someone there, like a wing to crawl under and, I don't know. I just like to see him happy and doing well.
Yeah, that's right.
So I don't think that car's meant to be that angle.
No. Posted on the wall there sideways. It's very on Vogue, though.
On Vogue?
There's one at there's one at MoMA. And there's a Ferrari, I'm pretty sure, on the wall at MoMA.
Wow. I know there's there's a Mercedes cafe in Melbourne, and I walked past one day and they had Bottas's race suit and an F1 car in there, and I just assumed that must be just there all the time. I don't know why. I just thought, I'll go back there anytime. And apparently they switch it out every month or something, and there's the Mercedes cafes all around the world, and they just switch, like cars rotate around, and each month they'll just switch cars, and they'll all they'll trade off. So I missed my opportunity to go and see it up close, but still. Yeah, would have been good to go and see it. I love the idea that they would just sort of Photoshop Albon's head on top of Pierre Gasly or something. And I noticed Verstappen's not here to goof off as well either.
No, because Verstappen was probably working. And they had to just shove Albon in. Because that's the other thing. It's not like that Toro Rosso and Red Bull are even in the same country. Toro Rosso's off in Italy. And Albon would have been based over there a lot of the time. And just now he's like, back to the UK where I'm been living most of my life, and just went into Red Bull and just photoshopped me in over Gasly's face. I wonder if they did the same thing, or they probably had all of Gasly's photos from the year before. They probably just had to.
Yeah.
For Toro Rosso, it would have been a little bit easier, maybe.
So, on a topical note, we had Christian Horner today ruling out any chance of Vettel going there next year because he said that Red Bull doesn't want two alpha males. Do you reckon that Albon hears that and he's like, ah?
Yeah, come on.
I mean, he doesn't project alpha in any way, but at the same time, I feel like you kind of, as a racing driver at the bleeding edge, you want to imagine you've got a bit of that bastard inside you, right?
Yeah. Is Christian Horner saying that maybe they have no alpha males at Red Bull right now? Maybe Max Verstappen is saying that.
What are you saying, that he has Albon and then his baby?
Yeah, I think that, yeah. Although it wouldn't surprise me if maybe the Verstappen actually wears the pants in that relationship, although that's a gender normative thing to say, like wears the pants, but I think that feels like Max Verstappen bosses Christian Horner around.
But he certainly could.
Yeah.
It's getting asked the hard questions.
I just feel like Pierre Gasly looked comfortable immediately back at Toro Rosso. Like, I was blown away by that he was just like, yeah, cool, I'm back, I'm going to do a really good job here, everybody loves me at Toro Rosso. I feel good. Maybe he likes being an underdog. I
think anything else, though, is lose-lose. If you look too upset about it, or even worse, if you look too happy about it, that's a field day for the media. So you got to downplay it in any way you can.
Stony-faced. I mean, this is a reflection maybe on the lack of personality in professional sport and Formula One at all. That's why I like Alexander Albon. It just seems like he's just like himself all the time. Oh, I love that. And any advice for Alexander Albon from Pierre Gasly? He's like, man enough to find it out by himself. It's like, yeah, look at the signs, man. It's bad. It's real bad going to Red Bull as a young driver.
So things here are about to get pretty sticky. That thing.
Yes.
So I had no idea about any of this stuff until I watched this episode. I had no idea.
No, neither. Yeah, which shows how well the PR at Red Bull was kind of managed, or the fact that journalists were like, okay, that's not worth asking about, maybe?
Well, maybe it's because I don't get my F1 news from like the Daily Mail or something like that. I go straight to motorsporting websites and stuff, and I guess if they mentioned it, it must have been in passing because I don't remember it being a big deal.
No, and I think Alexander Albon talking about it now is exactly how we live it. Him saying that like the media like to go and find things out about you and make stories of them. Yeah. He just wears his feelings on his face. It's just, I love that. He just looks a little bit sad when he's talking about this.
Yeah, it would be hard. I mean, imagine if the media found out that every time you go out in public, you put a banana in each of your shoes and squish them into your feet underneath. Like, I mean, that would be devastating if people found that out.
I definitely don't do that. I mean, nothing to be said about how it adds more suspension, grip, temperature management to my shoes. My feet cool. It's also, a cost-effective way of doing it. It also, at the end of the day, gives you a nice snack that you've always got with you. But no, I mean, I don't do it.
We have fun.
And I'm not saying that everybody should do it, or Formula One drivers should definitely invest in it. Although maybe I picked it up from a Formula One driver, an unnamed Formula One driver.
Just an innovator.
Yeah. It's hard out here on the bleeding edge, Rod. It's hard.
I prefer grapes. But yeah, anyway, your secret's safe with me. So that looks like the day before. That photo was the day before. They gave him a haircut. And then here he is.
Yeah, and put some foundation on his face to like smooth him out. Oh, I love the photos of the Red Bull young driver lineups. It's like, look at all these awesome drivers, or except two you can recognize. Oh, the photos of Alexander Albon with just all these really young people around. That's what adds context. Like, because a driver in a race suit, kind of like mid-teens up, we see all the time now. But then when you have other kids around them, they're like, oh wait, they're all children. Why is this guy hanging out with all these kids?
Fashions. And the photos don't have Instagram filters on them, so you know they're old.
That was back in the hipstermatic days.
Oh boy, good times. You like to see it.
I love this. Yeah, go back, go to your Thai roots, engage the audience there to give you the kind of groundswell you need to become, and to get your talent recognized. I think that's. I mean, to some people that might be not confidential. Sorry, it's the wrong word. Controversial is a better word. To kind of, are you leaning on some portion of your cultural heritage to try to propel you into the sport? But I don't have any problem with that. Even if there was any money. Edge of that at all, I would just be like, drivers do way more suspect things to get into the sport. He was just trying to get the platform because the sport, Formula One especially, is just, as we said before, just kind of like so Eurocentric and so like closed off to so much of the world. Which is why, you and me, like Australians, end up talking about Daniel Ricciardo so much because, like, every day I remind myself that we're absolutely blessed that there is an Australian, hashtag blessed obviously, that there's an Australian in Formula One for Australian fans to follow. We're incredibly lucky, and that we've had that through most of our lives.
Time. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But speaking of being Eurocentric, we're arriving at Belgium, the best F1 track on the calendar.
Yes.
It's one of those tracks that if they run it this year and there's no fans in the stand, it won't even really detract too much for me. Like some other tracks it would, but this one just wouldn't. I don't even see the fans when you're watching.
You
almost don't. I mean, other than when they cut to the grandstands and then someone lets off an orange flare and you're like, okay, Verstappen, whatever, we get it. This year we can
literally
pretend,
those shots there.
Next year we can pretend that the orange is for Ricciardo, so that's fine. But other than those specific shots of the grandstands, it's hard to think of too many times when you're watching Spa that you actually go, oh yeah, and then the stands and then the grandstand. It just doesn't really happen.
No. Oh yeah, that's what you said. I thought that was funny. It does just seem so chill, though. I wonder if he really puts down a lot of like the meditation and spirituality and like family connection to his success. But as soon as that heat-proof balaclava masky thing goes on, he's just focused on winning, like every Formula One driver. But if he said that, I wouldn't believe him because he sounds like a little boy who's like, "Yeah, I take it really seriously." It's like, yeah, cool.
Yep. I was serious about a lot of things at your age too.
Yeah. Yes, there is. Don't believe Christian Horner when he tells you there's no pressure on this and just go out and have fun. Because you'll bin the car in testing and then 3 months later you'll be fired.
Nothing would make me feel worse than someone saying there's no pressure on this.
Yeah.
Because they're lying.
Yeah, exactly. They are lying. Right. Oh, so yes, tense. More driver point of view through Eau Rouge and Radeon. Yeah. I just say them both every time now because I don't want to be the person who's called out for being wrong.
Yeah, you get exploded on Reddit and humiliated.
Oh, man.
I've been getting humiliated a lot online recently. I don't really like it.
What? Really?
Don't really like it. Yeah. Just people being narky, nitpicky jerkbags.
Well, you put yourself out there. That's, they're not putting themselves out there.
I do put myself out there. That's true. But having said that, I never make it personal, and they always make it personal. And I don't like that.
Yes. No, that's
a trigger for me.
Yeah, it's rough. It's stupid because you like robust discourse. You like people to have their opinions about the thing, not about you.
Ideas, not people's feelings, man.
Yeah, exactly. And that's very pertinent for Formula One. I mean, that's literally what a lot of this episode is about. Like, judge Alexander Albon for his racing, and not necessarily the things that his mum did in the past.
True. She doesn't seem to have a great spot, I have to say. Like, is that like a general admission ticket where she has to stand there for 4 days? That's not very good. Like, that's his mum, dude.
Yeah, maybe he likes her slightly one step away, though. Maybe he doesn't.
So this is going to get sad again. This is Niki Lauda one all over again.
Yeah. I hate hearing. That's a horrible accident.
So this is in the environment where people were saying, yeah, you can play as this guy in the game, and we had to really think hard about whether to put him in. I was like, oh man, you thought about it? Because I would have thought if you had a discussion about it, you would take him out, and that would just be it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they've named the corner after him now, something like that.
This was really sad, but I think the show also does an incredible job of reminding me that Formula One is more than, like, this travelling circus of Formula One is not just Formula One at that top level. It is F2 and F3 and all of the support races and everything else that goes around it.
Yeah, true.
That, like, half the grid is friends with the entire F2 grid because they all raced together as recently as last season.
This is one of the...
It's... Yeah.
Go on.
No, that was all.
This would be one of those moments where if you're watching this and you have no exposure to the year, this one would really make it would hit you doubly hard, I think, because we all kind of went through this sort of grieving, if you like, for this event. But yeah, and I also sort of forget about stuff like this at the end of the season. For this season, season 2, I was like, yeah, it wasn't that great. I think it really treats moments like this with the respect that they deserve. So yeah, I guess I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah, I think that Formula One circles the wagons a lot in these circumstances as well, to put on a consistent and kind of community focused front.
Has echoes of Charles Leclerc driving really well, the weekend after. He drove really well after someone died. Gonna get it wrong now. I feel like a jerk, but yeah. Maybe it was his dad even, or some family member. Anyway, but this is going to be Alexander Albon driving really well the week after his mate passes away.
God, it must be so hard for the families to come out during, after. I mean, and the fact that they had interviews with Antoine Hubert as well, and then his family were at the race for the memorial the next day before the race. It was so rough.
Yeah,
it's also
had no idea about him, no idea what he'd achieved, no idea who he was. I don't follow Formula 2 or the junior formulas particularly closely, but I mean, this is where you learn. This is where you get the whole story.
Yeah, and there's almost a bit of guilt there when you do that. You're like, oh, look, there's a young, vibrant, intelligent, bright person who was so close to the things that I follow so closely, as you said, and the sport moves incredibly quickly, that things like this are looked at for a weekend, and then immediately you have to get back into racing if you're a driver or the team or anything like that, and that carries the rest of the sport and its fans with it, that we move on very quickly as well, because the sport has to put it behind it so that it can do its thing, and that can be troubling, I think, from an outside view. I think that could be a little bit like, is that healthy? Is that okay? Should we not just call off a race if someone dies on the track? I don't know. I don't know, and I don't necessarily have an opinion on it right now, but it is, from an outside view, you can imagine a lot of people will be like, oh, and then they just did the Formula One race the next day. You're like, yeah, they just did qualifying and then they did the race. Yeah, that's just what happened. That, I think, to a lot of people, that would be kind of insane.
It does come across on one level as being a bit heartless and a bit cold, a bit mechanical. How could you not have called the whole thing off? It's and then you hear other people, I think Pierre even says it here, or someone else says, this is what he was here to do. If he could have been driving in Formula One, he would have. This is what he would have wanted us all to do. I mean, every driver had him in their hearts that day, so it's not all bad.
No, it's not. And look, in the end, it's...
In terms of their, perspective on it.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's any consultation there. I wonder if any of them... there's just Formula 1 just go, this is what happens, other than insane things, the racing goes on. I'm sure any driver would be able to be like, no, I feel horrible, I'm not going to race today. I was very close to that driver. Pierre Gasly is very close to Hubert, so, it wouldn't have been surprising or judgmental. We wouldn't have been judgmental on Pierre to not race that day. But, I mean, how often do we see this? That you brought up the example of Charles Leclerc before, and Lewis Hamilton last episode with Niki Lauda. There is, when death comes close to you, drivers, and you see it with sports people all the time. There was a great story earlier this year of a footballer, not in the Premier League, but in maybe the Italian league, whose, dad died that morning, or very early hours in the morning, and he didn't tell anybody, and he came in and he scored, and as he was celebrating, just broke down in tears, and everyone was like, what the hell, what's wrong? And he told a couple of people, and you could see them stop dead and be like, you turned up and you played, and you're doing, this is insane. It just, situations like that are, whilst incredible and dramatic and heartfelt and touching, they also kind of make me feel a little bit like, do we do our best to look after people in sport, which is essentially entertainment? Like, is it responsible to these? Are we doing our due diligence in looking after these, especially young drivers? God, this guy, Pierre Gasly's mate died the day before, and now he's going to go drive a Formula One car. Is that okay? Is that looking after someone at a time when maybe they're not in the best position to look after themselves? I mean, he's a grown man, but, I don't know. It's not the turn I expected this episode to take, but turns out I have some feelings on it.
Yeah, I guess so. We're in a heightened state in these pandemic times. Yeah. Don't know. It is a double-edged sword. Do you get out there and drive for him, or do you have to switch that off and say, well, I'm driving, but I don't want to be here. I want to be anywhere but here. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, and they'll say it's like my job and those kinds of things, but like if my really good friend died, I don't think I would go to work the next day.
That would be really tough to do that.
Yeah. I mean,
I remember when I was in high school, one of my friends, this is when I was probably 12 or something, one of my friends' mother passed away, and we all were in class, but the teacher came in and just said, we don't expect anyone to do anything today, just sit around and just think of your friend, and that's it. And even people who, didn't know him from Adam, that was just accepted. And I don't know if they do that anymore. I can't even imagine that happening anymore.
No. But yeah, it is. And look, now here we are watching one of the most exciting races of the season at one of the best tracks in the world. And is there drivers hesitating? I mean, obviously, Verstappen wasn't hesitating when he tried to go inside Kimi Räikkönen there.
It was never there. That was never on.
But, it was never on.
Anyway.
It never is. But if you don't go for that gap rod, are you even a Formula One driver anymore?
Well, that hairpin, seen a whole lot of action over the decades, I can tell you.
Yeah.
I can tells you.
I can tells you. I love it.
Oh, boy, he's done.
Oh, no.
It's all over. That's what it deserves, mate.
Yeah, that was rough.
Sure was.
Describing that it's a horrible start. Yeah, when you drive on the first lap, drives into a wall.
Impact incidents, not great. It's not ideal.
Yeah, and then also no pressure, Alexander Albon. Don't stress, just go out there and have fun, but also please win.
But also, you are in the hope.
Yeah. Oh. How many family members do you think he's allowed Alexander Albon in the garage?
I think for his first race, probably no limit. After that, I don't know, two or three.
Limit, yeah. I wonder if family members are going to be allowed to go under the new
surely not.
Isolation
surely
requirements
no
of everyone.
Surely no guests.
Yeah. What, we're not going to get Will Smith on the pit lane? Wait, will we even get... I wonder if they still have journalists going through doing the pit walk, the grid walk before the race. Like, will they even need that? Like, would you do that? Why?
I guess you could make an argument there's no need to be anywhere near that. Like, there's the media room. You could probably just stay there. I wonder if there's going to be journalists in the question, like when afterwards during the press conference, they sit at the little table with the swoosh in the background. We all know the background. Will the journalists be allowed in there? Will it be a big glass thing like when you go to the chemist? Like, so many questions I have. Yeah.
One thing that occurred to me is just as this episode is talking about pressure and like lots of people watching, and especially watching Alexander Albon, because there's Max Verstappen's out, and Albon has to do something to make his presence felt and like support the team in this circumstance. And it felt like on the weekend with the Bundesliga coming back, with no fans in the crowd, no fans to be a part of a crowd of, it seemed like the players were a little more relaxed. Like, they were definitely as ferocious, like they definitely wanted to win and were pushing really hard, but they made some decisions that I questioned whether they would make that decision if there was a big crowd there. Like, maybe their fear of making a mistake wasn't as high. And I wonder if that would be the same for Formula One, that their fear of kind of fucking up essentially will be less so because there's not a big crowd there to be like, oh my God, what an idiot. Like, the scrutiny is not as high.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess having a physical sea of bodies there is a good physical reminder, but I mean, you're still being televised out to whatever, hundreds of thousands of people.
Millions even. Billions even, Rod. Dream bigger.
Maybe trillions even.
Yes. But now, I mean, in this race specifically, Pierre Gasly is actually having a very good race and was the leading car, which I always thought was funny because it's like only by the dint that Max Verstappen crashed. But he's out there doing a good job, and
he's the best of what's left.
And Alexander Albon is just like coming to grips with the car and trying to work out how to just try to overtake anyone. He's just not looking great.
Well, the music tells me that it's all about to pick up a bit. It's all about to turn around and be a bit better. I love that angle for some reason. I don't know why. I guess because you just see the car emerge from out of nowhere.
Yes. You get to see the undulations of the track, which you often forget about. Until you get to a track and you're like, wow, it dips and drives and goes down and up. Ooh.
But the G-forces transfer through the car as it just changes directions just enough to make it look good. Keep going. Get in there. We need a positive ending to this thing. Come on.
I love that he just tells Huckenberg to get out of the way, sticks his hand in the air, what are you doing? Just can't imagine Albon ever being maybe not ironically angry. He kind of had a grin on his face, I'm sure. Alex Albon on Pierre Gasly. I wonder who will win this one, the guy with the really fast car or the guy with the less fast car?
Yeah. I mean, no matter how much he wants it, and no matter the fact that he's down at least a few dozen horsepower, I mean, they were always going to change positions. I think, it was never going to not happen.
Yeah, and I think that Albon was being responsible.
Christian
he didn't throw it down the
to
inside.
Toro Rosso and bump every desk in that whole facility. It was going to happen.
Yeah, and he just drives around him clean.
In the end,
he had the right place to overtake.
Yeah,
he didn't.
Right
what he didn't do was essentially what maybe I can imagine that Kevin Magnussen might have done, or Ocon might have done, or just essentially tried to make a statement. I think Albon was I'll just wait for another corner and see if I can get around it. How stressful to overtake a Renault.
Yeah, yikes. This guy in the Red Bull garage with the dreads, he's pretty cool.
Yep, I want to show about him. I want more from the garage is my only feedback for this season of this show. I would like to hear from more of the mechanics and the other parts of the teams. Doesn't necessarily mean to do sit-down piece to cameras.
When there's a moment, when they screw up the tyre gun or when they screw up something, it would be good to have them sitting down, their name in a little pyron or whatever those things are at the bottom. And
lower
then
third.
let's just, even if it's 1 minute, let's just hear from them. Yeah, man, I can't believe I blew the race for everyone. I feel so bad. It would be great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I want to know what the mechanics... I'm sure I could go and find this out, and I'm sure there's lots of interviews with what it's like to be an F1 mechanic, but I'd love to see a little bit more of the, through their eyes, just for a 5-minute period. They do a lot of this stuff, they show us Christian Horner's life, and they show us, Toto Wolff's life, and Max Verstappen's life, and all this kind of stuff. But what about, the rest of the people involved? I'd love a little bit of, okay, yes, we have to do pit crew practice, but also, I'm an engineer. I help design the car. I help work on the car. Do you do other things? Do you have a life outside of that?
That's season 12.
That 2 second.
We've done an episode about every person in the character. Toto Wolff's dog has had an episode about it. We've got no one left. I guess we'll do one about a mechanic.
Yeah, the guy who does the the right front. Oh, I loved that overtake when Albon goes on the grass. Off track limits, Rod? Outside track limits, that overtake?
He made it look worse than he had to. But he got it done.
Yeah, from 14th up to 5th was pretty good.
For Antoine.
And they were so happy for him. He didn't crash the car. That was literally all he had to do. Don't crash.
Because there was no pressure on it. It was just a fun drive. That's, this is the wisdom that we don't give Horner credit for.
Yep. He sounds so out of breath and so calm as well. Oh my God, but everything's great.
I think he would have been
good for Pierre.
Really knackered. Yeah, look, I mean, this was a good race for all of those guys.
Yeah. I hope Gasly sorts it out. Maybe this time off has helped him, but part of me is also thinking that he's reluctant or probably missing the opportunity to prove that he's okay, and maybe we'll come back and be questioning his character again. But I hope that he doesn't just have a really negative career in Formula One. Hopefully he sees this as just a knock sideways. He's a young driver and will be able to come back in a different way.
Plenty of drivers that did okay and still got pushed out. He can be like, well, hey, I'm still here. Even if the road so far has been rocky, I'm still on the road.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Nice one.
Yeah, Christian Horner is not worried about how Pierre Gasly feels when he sees this. Christian Horner's just talking about Alexander Albon has just done everything for this team. He's made it fun. We love having him around. He makes great coffees for everyone. He helped me with the problems I was having with my dog. He helped me train it. This is just the greatest.
What problems do you reckon he had with his dog?
his dog wouldn't calm down. That Christian Horner's dog was just too yappy, and Alexander Albon walked into the room and just the calm came over. Yeah, spayed the dog. Oh, score the points, my friend.
I get the feeling that he's very happy that Red Bull are going to be psyched because that means only good things for his baby, Max. They cut that bit of the little soundbite that they used before.
Yeah. A lot of shots of an explanation that all the young drivers have been hanging out since they were children, and then they have to compete as men, and they're all reunited again, and those must be really difficult having friends in racing, because it would come quite naturally as a child that, yeah, you could be competitive, but maybe leave it on the track a bit and go and play games together or video games and just hang out. But then in Formula One, when it full time becomes your job, no longer I'm pretty good at this, and we're all good at this, and we're all going to make it one day. And now it's like, some of us aren't making it. Some of us are in trouble, and, our friend just died doing the thing that we're all trying to do, or, that we're all doing every weekend. That must put massive strain on their relationships, especially if you're going to have to replace your friend at a team.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. And thinking it's going to be so great when we're all teammates, and then realizing, oh, this fucking sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. And they don't get to hang out, on race weekends together. They're working the whole race weekend. They are the star event. Like, if you're not doing that, you're doing PR, you're doing other stuff. So, there is, it's not normal. Being Formula One, it's not going to be more of the same. There's not going to be more of the F3 and F2, weekends. It's suddenly deliver every day.
No,
There's no slack.
Well, the episode has ended, and so has our commentary. Thanks for joining us. Hope you watched along and enjoyed that. And if you didn't, hope it made some sense when we were just going, oh no, hope that made some sense for you, or hope you were imagining a really good show in your mind. Zach, I have one last thing. How would you like to do a super quiz with me?
I would bloody love it, mate.
Oh, look out.
We will accept a couple of questions. Should one only win one? Would one want to have won that one in round one?
Can you repeat the question?
Hope you're ready, Zach, because I've got a doozy for you with the...
How many questions?
Hang on, let's get this out of the way. Right, start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 questions. This is the Vettel's Car or Burlesque Star Revisited. So,
yes,
way back in 2013 in episode 9 of Super License. I did a quiz called Vettel's Car or Burlesque Star, where I gave you a name and you had to tell me if it was the name of one of Sebastian Vettel's cars or was it the name of a burlesque star. And he's had a bunch of cars since then, and considering that he's probably out the door of Formula One, I thought this is the perfect time to revisit it. Apparently Vettel was inspired by World War II bomber pilots who named their planes. So to warm you up, some of the cars some of the names Vettel has given his cars in the past are things like Randy Mandy, Kinky Kylie, Hungry Heidi, etc. So you can see where the burlesque influence or the burlesque comparison comes from. Since then, the names have been a little bit more PG. So to make it a little more tricky, I've had to sort of sex up some of Vettel's names, but the core is still there. But essentially, I'm going to read out some names. You're going to tell me whether this is the name of Sebastian Vettel's car or a burlesque star. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Also, I just wanted to quickly say that I remember that we recorded that episode in your bedroom. I think we're usually a lounge recording, and I reckon that might also be the night that did I maybe held up the Fernando Alonso towel?
Oh, yeah.
Folded down, and my head was... I reckon that was at your place too.
That was probably that day. That was a good day.
Yeah, so, I mean, deep cut into the Super License universe.
Episode 9, if you want to find it, it's still out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm ready for the quiz.
All right, here we go. Your first name, Kitty Bang Bang. Is that a burlesque star or Vettel's car?
I mean, Kitty Bang Bang is a great name for a car, but I mean, Kitty Bang Bang is terrific, but I think it's a burlesque star.
That is a burlesque star. So the next one is Seductress Susie. Is that Vettel's car or a burlesque star?
Seductress Susie. Seductress. I feel like... And Susie doesn't feel like... He likes a German lady's name, I think, or maybe an Italian name, depending on the car make. But Seductress doesn't feel like the kind of thing you would say. So I'm going to say Burlesque.
That one is the name of Vettel's car. Just as a reminder, Susie was the name of the car, but I had to, if I just said Susie, that would be way too easy. So I've sexed up the names, but...
Yeah, but that's why I feel like Susie wasn't, when I was like, you like a German, German, and then Susie's not quite...
It's no Inga, that's for sure. Anyway... So we'll carry on, but that's to also clue you into something you need to be attuned to. Is this a name that Rodney has made up to sex up the other bit of the name, or is this an actual Burlesque name? Okay, let's carry on. The next one, Lily Snatch Dragon. Is that a Burlesque star or a Vettel car? Lily Snatch Dragon.
I think that's a Burlesque star.
That's a Burlesque star. I guess if it was Dragon Snatch, that would be problematic, but it's the right way around. Okay, keep moving. The next one, Kiki Kaboom. Kiki Kaboom.
Kiki Kaboom. That feels like a Sebastian Vettel car name.
No, that's a Burlesque star. Next one, Gorgeous Gina.
Gina, I reckon he might have been like, that feels like vaguely Italian. I reckon that's a car name.
That's Vettel's car from 2007 was Gina. Okay, next one, Lena the Wrong Way. Lena the Wrong Way. Is that Vettel's car or a Burlesque star?
I'm gonna... Lena the Wrong Way. I mean, that's a great joke. I'm going to say that's a car, and I hope that it's your joke.
It is. Lena was Vettel's car name last year, so I named her Lena the Wrong Way.
It sounds like something from the 12th Man, like a cricketer's wife.
Okay, Vivian Vaboom.
Burlesque dancer.
That's a Burlesque name. Last one, Lucilla Ball.
Like Lucille Ball. From whatever that American TV show was. I'm going to say... Yes, I'm going to say that is a Burlesque dancer.
No, that was Vettel's car. Lucilla was Vettel's car. So you got several correct, and we had a good laugh, so that's really all that matters in the Vettel's car or Burlesque star quiz. I might put the original quiz at the end of this episode. I might cut that in.
Yeah.
That'll be a fun little thing. We could revisit.
It would be a fun little thing.
Revisit that day, and you can imagine that Zach is wearing a towel.
In fact, why do we bother recording new episodes? We should stop recording new episodes, just put old episodes up.
That's just such a
for the matching
idea.
Races.
Yeah, and we could just overdub people's names. And we could even just leave in Hamilton and Vettel. That's fine.
I can just hear. And here comes Sainz coming up the corner.
Well,
what did you think of the crash between Max and Daniel?
How crap were Pirelli's tyres? Well, we can just leave that as it is. Well, Zach, you did quite well, I think, and now we can retire that quiz, just as Vettel's surely going to announce very soon that he's going to retire. I guess we're into final thoughts territory, Zach. Any last thoughts we should put out there before we wrap up?
I think my take on whether Formula One will come to Silverstone is that I think it will, because I think that because the Premier League will come back, and there will be arguments there about a lot of players don't necessarily, like during lockdown and stuff, maybe went back to their home countries if they could, or weren't necessarily staying in the UK and went to European places, or have to go home to their families at least and stuff. I think that sport is going to prove itself out, and I think that Formula One will be able to get back, because it is such a closed environment that they'll be able to get Formula One happening at Silverstone. I think that the UK will actually want that to happen. I think that the government will want that to happen. So we'll see racing at Silverstone this year, I reckon.
I don't know why there's all this talk like, well, it's slated to be, it's on the calendar for 6 weeks from now. So if it doesn't happen then, it's not going to happen. Like, I don't understand that. Like, it's a racetrack. It's not going anywhere. As long as the weather is okay, surely you can just have a race in, October. And I mean, there's still tracks like Singapore on the calendar. And it's like, dude, that's just not happening. The government there said, no crowd, no race. There ain't going to be a crowd. There ain't going to be a race just around Silverstone that weekend. Anyway, well, our job here is done, Zach. I feel pretty accomplished, and a little bit like when you work from home. I'm just going to turn around and I'm going to be at home as soon as we finish this. So I just want to thank everyone for listening. I hope you are enjoying the commentaries. I hope they're filling some kind of a gap for you. I hope that in your life you just enjoy hearing two dumb idiots talking about Formula One sometimes and then making dumb jokes the rest of the time. And we'll be back again soon with some more content for you. So until then, I'm going to sign off. My name's been Rodney.
My name's been Zach. Give us a 5-star review on whatever podcast catcher you use, Priest.
Very nice. And we'll talk to you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, yeah. time for the quiz. The Super License quiz. I've got a really quick, really, really fun one for you this week. I think just take a little break from the question-answer kind of style just to keep it mixed up.
You're going to give me answers and I'm going to have to respond to questions?
Not Jeopardy, man. It's quiz.
I'm too young to know what Jeopardy is.
Oh, my goodness. I've got only one question for you.
What?
But I want you to think very carefully about how you answer.
One question?
The question is, Zach.
Yep.
Can you tell the difference between a Formula One car and a beautiful woman? Think carefully. Now, we established our credibility last week with a woman in Formula One quiz. We may be about to burn some of that collateral, but I promise it'll be okay.
I did not. I had no say in
Can you
this
tell the
quiz
difference?
question.
Can you tell the difference?
Definitely.
A car and a beautiful woman. You think so? You sound so
Well,
confident.
100%, because one is a car and one is a woman.
Well, we'll see about that. We'll see.
We'll see.
Sebastian Vettel, you familiar with this guy?
I've heard about him, yeah.
He likes to give his cars women's names.
Fair enough.
So this year, don't shout out if you know any, this year's car he calls Hungry Heidi.
Yes.
Hungry Heidi, that's the name of his car.
Yep.
And he's done this for many, many years. So the question this week, the quiz is going to be based around, can you tell the difference between a Sebastian Vettel car or a Burlesque performer's name? So these are real Burlesque performers. I'm just going to race through the list.
Yep.
That's your job, though. You say Vettel's car or Burlesque performer. Got it?
Vettel's car's a little long, so can I just say car?
You can say whatever you like.
Car performer.
Car or star. Something like that.
Car or lady.
A sexy lady. So bear that in mind, though. Vettel's car this year is called Hungry Heidi. I'm giving you that one for free.
Thank you.
But
I did know that one.
Okay, good. Well, you say so confidently, right, I knew that one. Let's just see how many you get right.
All right.
I think there's
how are
about
we going to
11.
do this? Are you going to just read 2 out of... What are you going to read one?
I'm going to read one, and you say, yeah. After each one, you answer.
We're so bad at quizzes. Every week we're like, so how's this going to work?
After every... I think this is going to be an easy setup, and it turns into a 15-minute setup. I'm sorry.
Man, what you're hearing right now is we've actually edited it down. Like, it's just 20 minutes of Rod explaining how words work.
I've grown a beard while I'm describing this trip, this quiz.
This trip.
So the first... Are you ready for a name?
I'm ready.
I'm just going to throw the names at you. You just quick fire back, okay?
Yes.
So the first one, Juicy Lucy.
That is a performer.
That is a Burlesque star. The next one, Ms. Divine Bandersnatch.
That's a Burlesque performer.
Oh, that one's an obvious one, right?
Yes.
Luscious Liz.
That is definitely a car.
That's Vettel's car from 2010.
I'm 3 from 3.
Corvette LaFace.
That's a lady.
That's a lady.
LaFace?
LaFace.
You're not great with names. Are you sure it wasn't Corvette LaFaci?
LaFaci. I don't know, but it's spelled face. I just say face.
Good one.
Bombshell Betty.
That's a car.
That is a Burlesque performer.
Oh,
I got you.
Damn it! I was going to swear, but I remember we shouldn't, but I can.
Veronica Van Tassel.
That's got to be a Burlesque dancer.
That's a Burlesque dancer. Randy Mandy.
That's a car.
That's Vettel's car from 2010.
He's not very inventive. He just wants them to rhyme, and then he comes up with the word first, and then goes, now a woman's name.
So the next one is Sultry Susan.
That's a car.
That's Burlesque.
Oh, you tricked me. Red herring.
Yep. Kinky Kylie.
That a car?
That's more recent. That's Vettel from 2011, yes.
Okay.
Next one is Kate's dirty sister.
It's probably a Burlesque dancer.
No, that is Vettel's car from 2009. He had a car called Kate. I guess he crashed it or I changed it. And he came up with Kate's dirty sister. That was 2009. I'm sorry.
That's actually pretty good. He's a smart
Pretty
kid.
good.
Good on
I got
him.
one more.
He should name Burlesque dancers is what his true calling is.
Oh, he has missed out.
Call in if you want us to ask Vettel to name your Burlesque personality.
The last name I've got for you is Stefka Von Snatch.
That's going to be a Burlesque
That's
dancer.
a Burlesque. A nice easy, like a soft lob just to finish off there.
Yeah, too much snatch talk.